Hi there, a little bit different start to this video. This actually is the very first video I ever made. I'm just talking over a shot of how I sit, or how my camera is situated when I sit filming my videos. Thought you might find it a little bit interesting while I talk to you about why I'm posting this video. This was the very first video tutorial that I ever videoed, that I ever edited. First time I ever used iMovie, first time I ever used my camera, and I never posted it, and the reason I didn't post it was because at the time I couldn't work out how to get videos longer than a certain length of time onto YouTube. I think it was 15 minutes, and this one runs about 17, probably a little bit more by the time I add this little detail to the front and the back of the video. So when I found the video, I had a little watch and see how I did, and I thought, should I redo it or should I leave it as it is? And I decided it was a bit of a historical thing for me. I started in September 2012, and that's when this video was created, and really it's just a record of how things have changed. I hope they've changed a little bit. I definitely thought it was okay for a first attempt. It sounds a little bit echoey, but that's because at that time I hadn't learnt how to do voiceovers. I didn't know how to do them in iMovie at that time. I found it was the easiest way to edit my videos, was to just video what I was making and then to talk over it and tell you what I'm doing afterwards, and that's how I do it now. But I remember on this video having to redo things a few times as I made mistakes with what I was saying, so you might find there are a few more ums and ahs. I do still do them, but I think that you might find that there are a few more of those in the video, but it's quite sweet, and I thought it was quite a nice historical record of how I started. So I'm going to leave the video exactly as it is, and I'm going to let you have a look at these little fun items that I showed you how to make in my very first video, even though it's taken me 2 years to actually show you what they were. So I hope you enjoy it, and stay tuned to the end, and I'll have another chat to you then. Hi everyone, this is my first ever attempt at making a video tutorial. It's going to be short and sweet because I've got a lot of things to learn. I've got to learn about lighting, whether I need any more. I've got to learn about where I'm going to position my rig. At the moment I'm looking up to see whether I'm still in shot, so I can imagine that I'm going to get quite a bit of neck ache if I continue with it in this position. So I think I might have to invest in some kind of better way of having my camera above my desk. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to make are, and they're both made in a very, very similar way, just on a smaller scale or a larger scale in the case of these little Blackberries. Now they could be, I'm just going to zoom this in a little bit by moving up and try not to make you go dizzy. These could actually be raspberries or blackberries depending on how you colour them, but I'm going to show you how to do the blackberries that I've made on this tag today. They're easy to make. The biggest thing that you'll find with them is they take quite a while to dry, but I suggest that you make quite a few in advance, and then you've got a handful of blackberries that are never going to go off, sitting in your drawer waiting for when you want to use them. So the blackberries I've made separate to all the little stem and the leaves that are on here. So I'm literally going to concentrate on just showing you how to make the blackberries. And the other one, if I move that one out of the way, is this little tag here that I made. Both these tags were made for the Tag Tuesday blog, and which I've been enjoying immensely, and we're going to use the same principle to make these little sugar sticks that you can see on the end of my tag here. So I'm going to talk you through what you need, and then I will record how I actually made them. So I'm going to start with the sugar sticks because they're the smallest. So the first thing that you'll need to make your sugar sticks are cocktail sticks or toothpicks. Depending on what you're going to use them on, you might want to paint your sticks first, which I've done with this one, or you can leave them au naturel like this one. So you need, for the sugar sticks, you need cocktail sticks. You also need pin flare glue gel or silicone, like I've got here. I'm going to use mine out of the tube. I've already decanted this into this tube, just makes it a little bit easier to handle. This is a little bit messy if you're not careful, and it is quite difficult to get off your hands, so just be as careful as you can. I suggest you work on a scrap piece of paper, because this silicone, if you get it onto your craft mat, you can get it off, but it's a bit gloopy, and it's much better just to have it on a piece of paper that you can throw away. So we've got the pin flare glue gel, and the other thing that's quite important are these glass beads. So I've got a pot of those glass beads, which you can get from lots of different places. I know that you can get different sizes, and these are quite large glass beads rather than the tiny micro beads that you can get. The large beads are better because they, for the texture that we want for the berries and for the sugar sticks, you'd be better to use a large glass bead rather than a small one. And the other thing that you will need to do the sugar sticks is a little bit of sparkle. So I've got diamond stickles and anything along that line. You could use a pastel coloured stickles like a pink or a blue, but I found that this, because I just wanted mine to look like clear sugar, I'm going to use this just for an added bit of sparkle. You wouldn't really get this on a sugar stick, but I thought it looked quite nice as we're using them to decorate a project. And the other thing that you would use for when we're doing the blackberries, I actually made the blackberries on a thicker skewer, so like a barbecue skewer that you do your kebabs on, mainly because they're a heavier blob of silicone, the bigger blob of silicone, and I just didn't want them to tipple over when they were drying, so I used a sturdier stick. And actually we are going to cut this stick off when we've finished, so you could, if you wanted to, still use a cocktail stick, but I'm going to use the thicker stick for the blackberries, and I'm going to use 2 colours of alcohol ink, and I've got currant and cranberry, and I need to remember to turn everything round, because that's the other thing I'm going to decide today, whether to have the shot as I'm looking at it or as if you're sat opposite me watching what I'm doing. So if you're sat opposite me, I'm going to have to remember to turn things round to show you what I'm using. If you're sat where I'm sat, then I don't need to remember to do that. So all these decisions I'll be making during the course of this little video. So I'm going to put those out of the shop for a minute, and I'm going to start. The other thing that you'll need to have ready is somewhere to stand these up, because obviously we're going to have sticky silicone covered in glass beads to start with, and they're going to need to sit somewhere to dry. For my bigger cocktail sticks, I've got a pot, which I'm just going to stand, not my cocktail sticks, sorry, my skewers. I'm going to stand them in here, and obviously I can arrange quite a few in a pot like this, and they're not going to fall and touch one another. So I'm going to use that for my blackberries, but obviously with a small cocktail stick you either need a smaller version, which I couldn't find today, so I had the brainwave of getting a piece of kitchen towel, and I'm just going to stab them into the top of the kitchen roll, and that will hold them up long enough while they dry. Just swirl, and the trick is not to be too precious with this. So what you're trying to do is get roughly the area that you want covered with the sugar, and about the size of the amount of sugar that you want on your stick. So I'm not sure if that's actually, you can see that very well, there you go. So I've roughly swirled some silicone onto the end of my stick, and then I'm going to take my glass beads and I'm going to dip them into the glass beads just to get a good coating, and make sure that you cover. So I'm just swirling it in. You'll find that it changes shape. Now don't worry about that too much, because now it's covered in beads, you can use your fingers to reshape it. Now sugar sticks aren't that uniform, but they're a little bit more uniform than that. So I'm going to have to bring it down to my desk for a minute while I just shape it with my fingers. This is where you get a little bit messy, so I have a little bit of kitchen roll on hand, and when you're happy with what they look like, you might lose 1 or 2 beads along the way, so I think I'm happy with that. So I'm going to leave it at that, and then I'm going to stand that in my kitchen roll and put that to one side. So now we're going to work exactly the same principle to make the blackberries, except of course blackberries are slightly different shape. I am going to try and shape them like a blackberry or a raspberry, and also they're a bigger blob of silicone. So you're going to start, I'll probably start a bit further down my stick there. I'm going to start with a much, just twirling it on. And the other thing is to make them to scale. Obviously, if they're going to be on a larger project, you can make larger blackberries. If you want them to go on a smaller top of a small gift box or something like that, then you're going to grow your raspberries proportionally. So these are going to be tag size again. So dip them back into the beads. Make sure you get a good covering before you start trying to manipulate it with your fingers. You don't really want to get too sticky at this stage. I'm just going to push that little bit of silicone back. I went a little bit far down my stick. And then you're going to round them into a blackberry shape. They're not too messy, but if you really squidge your silicone, you're going to get into a mess. So when you're manipulating the shape, you just want to do it lightly with your fingertips. You don't want to push your glass balls too far in to your silicone, and then you've got a blackberry shape, which I'm going to stand in my pot, which is there. So I now have 2 blackberry or potential blackberries that are dry. It's probably best to leave yourself 24 hours to make sure that all the silicone glue dries, and that you can colour your blackberries or raspberries if you choose to make them raspberries. You might have a few loose glass balls, so if you sort of just run your fingers over them over your container, you just knock off the spare ones before you start to colour the blackberries. And also I've got 2 sugar sticks, also dry. Do the same thing, get those extra glass balls off because we can use those again on another project. Okay, I'm going to start with the sugar sticks. I've got a range of stickles in diamond. You can colour these with alcohol inks if you want to, and I have done that before. I've got these 2 here, but they're quite, the colours of the alcohol inks that I had were quite dark. They still look nice, they look nice as decoration on a product, but I don't think they look entirely edible. Not that they are really, but you know, if you really wanted them to look like sugar sticks rather than just embellishments, I think you'd perhaps have to use something that was a little more in keeping with the colour of food. So that's those ones, but we're going to make the clear ones look like this, with just that little bit of added sparkle. So I shall do that now. So all you do is you take your stickles. I'm going to give mine a shake because mine's quite well used. And I'm hoping I don't have to go and get another one. And then you just literally stipple the stickles all over your sugar stick. You don't really need much, just a little liberal dotting all over the sugar stick like so. Don't know if you'll be able to catch the sparkle on there. If I put my hand behind you, might be able to see better. I think you can see that. And that is ready to dry. And then the next thing we're going to do is colour our blackberries. So they are some blackberries that I had from the last time I made them. So, you know, they're quite handy to keep for a project that you might need them for. And like I said, I've made them this size, but they you could make smaller ones. I think the ones that I've made this time around are a little bit smaller, and it all depends on what project you're going to use them on as to how big you want to make them. Now I've chosen to break the sticks off, but you could leave a little bit of stick on just until you decide actually what you're going to use them on, because they can be, the little sticks could be quite handy to attach them to something else. So it depends actually how you want to use them. So I probably, for versatility, would leave a little bit of the stick still on there until you know, unless you know what you're actually going to use them for. So I'm going to show you now how to colour these. Now I've got two different colours here of alcohol ink. I've got currant and cranberry, and I'm going to use them to colour. So I'm going to make one that's a little bit lighter and perhaps a little bit less ripe. And you could use a much redder, alcohol ink if you wanted them to look a bit more like raspberries. These ones are quite dark, and literally I'm just dotting. The alcohol inks let the ink out in sort of a drop form, and you don't need too much. This works quite well for what we want to do. You just literally, I'm not squeezing the tube, I'm just touching it and allowing the alcohol ink to run around my blackberry. Okay. And just keep dotting until you're happy with the colour. Remembering to go around the top, and you're just trying to give all the little glass balls a coat of the alcohol ink, and the alcohol ink, ooh, will dry quite quickly. So there you have it. I'm not quite sure why some of the berries seem to colour more, whether they've actually got a slight coating of silicone on, that might be the reason. But some of the berries, it adds to the effect that some of the berries are a little bit darker and some are lighter. So that's one blackberry, which I shall put into my pot ready to dry, and then I'm going to do one slightly darker. I'm glad I put down my bit of scrap paper to protect my board. So now I'm going to use the currant to make a real black currant look. And this definitely has the colour of a very, very ripe berry. Just ready to pick off the bramble. And if you want to, I mean, you could do a two-tone berry. You could, you know, have part of the berry in the light colour and part in the dark, because that's actually how they would grow on the bramble anyway. And then here's the slight, if I show you the two colours together, you get the picture. There we go. It was really fun watching that back and listening to myself. I could almost hear the gears in my brain whirring as I was thinking about what would you be looking at, what would my student want me to tell them about what I was doing, and trying to keep my English flowing without saying too many times. As you can see from this picture, the camera still is perched on my desk on a tripod, and that's because I did eventually learn a very simple trick in iMovie where you can flip your video footage around the other way, and I think that does work better, and it's just something I do while I'm editing the footage. At the time I did think I might have to get my husband to build me some kind of fancy rig because my tripod wouldn't allow the camera to go in the opposite direction. You can see my camera on this photograph. This is a photograph of a project in progress. I think I'm working on one of my 12 tags of 2013, it looks like on the photograph. And I just wanted to show you a couple of shots so you can see, you can sort of picture where I'm working when I make my videos. I've got a couple of quite large craft mats, and you'll see sometimes I change the colour just to change the backgrounds that you're viewing my tutorials on. I've also learned how to do the credits, and I sort of have made them a bit more, I branded my videos, so I made the image that you see in the background of the credits at the front and the back of the videos. So it's all been a huge and great fun, really, learning curve, and I think it's fun to have posted this video this way. I hope it doesn't make you laugh too much that I did actually teach something at the end of it, although I do think it is quite fun to look at how I used to do it. Another memory I have is of my fingernails. I asked a few people what they thought. Do they want to see perfectly manicured nails working on the projects they're watching, or do they mind that they're just inky and how they come? And that's kind of how I've gone in the end. It was the time when gel nail polish came out, and I thought, oh yeah, if I have that done, then it's not going to chip, and they're going to look quite nice, and it should help my nails to stay a decent length, because my nails are quite prone to breakage. But as it happens, ever since I've been videoing, my nails somehow seem to have taken on a new lease of life, and I do sometimes have fairly long nails in my videos until they get too long, and then I have to cut them off because I can't cope. And this is another shot of my desk that I thought you might be interested in, and the wall in front of me is full of the tags that I've made over the period that I've been crafting, or some of the period that I've been crafting, and I put them up there as a little bit of inspiration. And my final shot before I say cheerio, and I hope that you've enjoyed this little reminisce of how I did my very first video. This is another desk that I sit at in a different room. I don't tape at this one. This is where I just work day to day on all sorts of different kinds of things. It's actually looking quite tidy. This is an old shot of an old project. And there's actually a video of this little canvas where I've made these teeny tiny bows. They're made out of paper, and I've coloured them with my Distress ink. So there's a tutorial, I think it's on the home decor playlist, where you can see how I put the canvas together, and I think there's a techniques tutorial for the little origami bow, and I show you how to make a slightly bigger one, so you can practice on that before you move on to the teeny tiny little ones, which are a little bit fiddly, but they look really sweet when they're done. And I'm also going to share here, as you will see come up on the screen, a link to the very first video I did post, because obviously I had to make a shorter video in order to fit in with those parameters of YouTube. I have since learnt how to post longer videos, as if you watched the video before last, you'll see that I posted a 46-minute tutorial, which is my longest video so far. I try not to do that too often because I appreciate that you just want to get on and craft. So I just want to show you something perhaps to inspire you, or perhaps show you a new technique, and then I want you to get on and craft, really, because that's the enjoyable bit after all. The other thing that I didn't know how to do on that very first video was to encourage you to support my creative endeavours by asking you to subscribe and to hit the like button and the share button and share it with your friends. But that's something that I've learnt, and put in the links on my videos so that I encourage you to watch other things that I've made. And that's all part and parcel of the experience of working here on my YouTube channel. I hope that you enjoy my tutorials, and I really am grateful for your company. So until next time, thank you for watching.